Welcome back everyone to the best channel on YouTube. Today we'll be analyzing the book of Mice and Men. This is a great book that I think all of you should read at least once in your life, as it possesses a great historical snapshot of the time it is shot in and the everlasting effects the Great Depression had on the USA. Although everyone strives to attain dreams they create for themselves, dreams are not always achievable. This is evident in the story of Mice and Men, written by John Steinbeck during the Great Depression in 1937. John Steinbeck is a novel and Pulitzer Prize-winning American novelist who's often centered around social and economic issues, such as this one. As we progress more into the video, I'll be going more in depth to the background of John Steinbeck and why he wrote the book. Of Mice and Men is set in the 1930s against the backdrop of the United States' catastrophic economic downturn known as the Great Depression. The Great Depression was a severe worldwide economic depression The Great Depression was a severe worldwide economic depression that took place during the 1930s, beginning in the United States. It all began after the stock market crash of October 1929, which sent Wall Street into a panic and affected millions of investors. During that time, approximately 15 million people were unemployed, which resulted in high amounts of homeless people. Amongst the worst hit were the agricultural workers of the American West, many of whom were left homeless and wandering for work.
Hi guys, so my name is Ajith.
Now let's get into the author's background.
Ajith.
So now, about the author, John Steinbeck. John Steinbeck was born in 1902 in Salinas, California, a region that became the setting for most of his stories, including this one. As a teenager, he spent his summers working as a hired hand on neighboring ranches, where his experiences of rural California and his people impressed him deeply. In 1919, he enrolled at Stanford University, where he studied for the next 6 years before finally leaving without earning a degree. For the next 5 years, he worked as a reporter and then as a caretaker for a Lake Tahoe estate while he completed his first novel, an adventure story called Cup of Gold, which was published in 1929. Writing of Men and Mice was his first huge accomplishment as a writer. So why did John Steinbeck write this book? His experiences throughout his childhood motivated him to write of Mice and Men, as it will help modern-day readers to understand the Depression era of America, where economic conditions of the time victimized workers. He spent his childhood watching migrant workers in the region and even spent time himself working on the farms, so this issue directly relates to him. The lifestyle of the migrant workers left an impression on Steinbeck, who was motivated to document their difficult experiences in the novel. He also wanted to expose the role and discuss how cruelty and indifference of landowners are represented in the novel. So the whole purpose of why John Steinbeck wrote this book was to help persuade American political leaders to provide more aid to the people left disputed by the Depression. Now, it's time for the summary. This story focuses and follows the lives of George Milton and Leanie Small, who are two contrasting characters who are working towards a shared dream of owning their own piece of land during the Great Depression. They are both migrant workers in California during the Great Depression. So in the story, George is Leanie's caretaker, as Leanie is mentally disabled and unable to control his emotions. The story begins with the two characters migrating to California to scrape their farmlands in the Midwest. Moving to San Luis, California, George and Leanie hope for a new beginning and better possibilities. The economic hardships cause many difficulties to George and Leanie as they struggle to live a life of disrespect and
degradation.
Degradation, because what I thought. Disrespect and degradation, and do so in hopes of attaining the American dream. The effects of the Great Depression are evident in John Steinbeck's novel of Mice and Men. The economic conditions of the Depression era in America victimized workers like George and Leanie, whose only quest was for land and opportunity, and thus establishing the central theme of dreams. The idea of overcoming all obstacles and beating all odds to one day be successful lies with many of the characters throughout the novel. However, their definitions of the American dream are all diverse. George wants his own land and to be able to support himself and to be his own boss. And Leanie, who shares the same dream of living on the farm with George, where he can support himself and other people living on the farm. So now, onto the themes. Loneliness is a prominent theme in this novel, and it seems to oppress most of the characters. Although there are many workers on the ranch, they're all on their own. They travel alone between ranches in search of work, and usually they stay only for a short period of time on each ranch. They do not seem to have any special home to go to, nor a family to turn to. This is demonstrated at the beginning of the novel when George says the powerless sentence to Leanie. Guys like us, they work on ranches, are the loneliest guys in the world. They got no family. They don't belong no place. John Steinbeck uses the characters' interactions to introduce more central themes, to introduce another central theme, which is power. The main characters, George and Leanie, are powerless. We see that in their economic status. They are poor and they are controlled by the wealth ranch owners who often treat workers as if they're not human. Throughout the story, one can see that the constant desire by the workers to become better. No matter what is being done, the lower classes is continuously working hard in order to rise in the ranks of society and make enough money to be independent. John Steinbeck uses the characters in the story to illustrate the negative effects capitalism has on the working conditions of the farm workers. Many of the dreams they strive to obtain, they are isolated from the rest of the upper class. The government uses various mechanisms to manipulate the public, providing a false hope, such as the American dream. Dreams are a recurring theme in the story, as the theme of dreams is used to emphasize the depressing nature of lifestyle that the characters lived in. The clash between the lower dreams and the hardness of reality is a major theme of Mice and Men. Leanie and George hold on to the version of the American dream, which is owning their own piece of land and striving for a better life. The majority of the characters do not fulfill their ambitions due to unrealistic dreams placed upon themselves. So now, it's time for the conclusion. John Steinbeck's Of Mice and Men is a parable of what it means to be human. John Steinbeck's story of George and Leanie, ambition of owning their own land and ranch, and the opposites stand in their way of their ambition reveal the nature of dreams, dignity, loneliness, and sacrifice. Ultimately, Leanie, the mentally handicapped, who makes George's dream of owning their land worthwhile, ironically becomes the greatest obstacle to achieving that dream. Steinbeck reminds us that each day and every person should be accepted for who they are and be able to live in harmony with others. Migrant workers had to work hard to survive and live an isolated and lonely life. So everyone, that was my crash course video of the book Of Mice and Men. Thank you guys for listening. I hope you enjoyed this video, and stay tuned until next week. Thank you. Peace. Man, I better get a good mark for this.